that's here for this first-time event. And as I've kind of walked around the pits, it strikes me, Sarah, that truly these trucks that we're going to go see today are some of the finest race cars in the world. And I'm not talking about just 4x4 trucks or anything else. I'm talking about the technologies in these vehicles matches almost anything short of Formula One. If you don't believe it, look up what one of these T1 trucks looks like. And we are about ready to get started for qualifying. So what are your thoughts?
We are. It's crazy. Out there we have two-wheel drive trucks. We have four-wheel drive trucks. They're really coming through. And, you know, these trucks they're unbelievable now what they're doing. We were just talking about Team C's trucks, and now they have portals. And they're really trying to perfect the four-wheel drive. And so we're going to really see, I think out here they still have some rock sections, so they're going to be able to use that four-wheel drive as a benefit. And we have drivers like Andy McMillan. He's about to take off first here at qualifying.
Yeah, Andy McMillan, Baja 1000 champion, obviously starting here in his Red Bull Toyo tire trucks. This is the Toyo Tire Invitational brought to you by Monster Energy, but it's great to see all the energy drink companies. Andy McMillan from the legendary McMillan racing family. Love to have them here from San Diego. There's 3 trucks with McMillan names on them with the 2 brothers and the cousin Andy. Andy starting out first. I think when I talked to him yesterday, he's pretty excited about this whole event. Everybody is, and so we're getting ready to qualify. Unique here how this is going to work. We've got a 20-mile qualifying loop that's going to happen, and we're going to see how these guys do, and they're going to be a short time between when time they finish qualifying and the race start. Nothing like this has ever been done in this type of racing before, and I think this is going to be a great blending of cultures between the great Ultra 4 guys, the UTV guys like you raced, and these incredible trucks, and we are going to be bringing this to the world today. Can't wait.
And they're off.
And Andy McMillan's off, and you can already see some of the speed difference between what we saw yesterday here with the Everyman Challenge and these incredible trucks. They're going to do this infield prologue section here. Obviously, we're going to be interesting to see. I mean, Andy's already can see him throwing it sideways up there in the corner, and I think we're pretty all excited. I think we're waking up Hammertown here. It's early here, but we talked a little bit this morning with some of the engine builders. They weren't very concerned about the cold. When I got in, it was about 26 degrees this morning here, and but most, if not all, of the trucks have fuel injection systems, which means they're able to not need necessarily the warm up, but the brakes pretty cold, shocks really cold, and it's going to take a while to for these guys to kind of get these trucks up to speed and see what they can do. So I think next up is going to be Rob MacCachren.
It's going to be interesting to see Rob out there because he's a short course driver, and there's quite a bit of short course here. So getting your speed right off the bat is going to be a big benefit to get a good time on this qualifying loop.
For those who don't know, Rob MacCachren is in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. He is truly considered probably the greatest off-road race driver of all time with over 200 wins. I pretty much assume he is going to be that. So he's in the Rockstar BF Goodrich truck, and he runs both Desert Series and short course, as you said. He's the Lucas Oil Pro 2 champion. So we got Rob MacCachren get ready to get off the line here. Again, here we are in Hammertown. We got some technical issues here. I think we're okay, though. Okay, we're good. All right, getting back to it here. Okay, well, so Andy's off, and like I said, the number 11 Rob MacCachren truck, obviously perfectly prepared by their crew chief Jim Blackmore, and their whole crew is here. And like I said, these guys came with their tractor trailer. They're ready to come racing, and I think Rob was really looking forward to something. This is a brand new venue for him too. He did run Ultra 4s here before. A couple years ago, he's ran here, so he does have some experience in the rock. A 2-wheel drive truck built originally by the Geysers. You know the Geyser trucks really well, Sarah?
Very familiar with Rick and Jeff. They build so incredible machines. They have a long history, and their trucks are known to win. So those trucks can take a beating, and they have the most winningest truck out there today. Rob's going to be the person to beat. I think this is going to be one of the ones that will take the win.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what everybody's watching for, to see how Rob MacCachren can handle a short course. He's has some rock experience. I think that no matter when he shows up, this guy's always a favorite from Las Vegas, Nevada, and like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing how Rob does. I'm sure he's going to do well. There's never a question of whether he is. I know that the guys were working on some tire stuff, of course. They were doing pressures this morning, trying to make sure because that's one of the most interesting things to me is a racer is how do you handle the tire pressure? You got tire pressure with the cold, you got tire pressure with the rocks and the shale, which I heard some of the parts of the course have. There's also a big hole silt beds, which on the 2-wheel drive trucks, the rear tire pressure is super important. Yep, and then there's all the strategy of Are we going to short pit? Are we going to short fuel the trucks because we have to stop, or maybe they don't have to stop? I mean, these trucks have, I think Rob's has a 100-gallon fuel cell, so you can imagine that's 700 pounds of fuel he's carrying. If he's not doing that now, so they're going to top it off now. They probably just got a 20 miles worth of fuel and 21 miles worth of fuel.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're going to be running the trucks light here for qualifying and optimize their horsepower, but. Yeah, it's pretty insane out here. The biggest thing I think is going to be the rocks. They pop out of nowhere out in this desert. I raced here on Sunday, and the desert has some rocks that out there that can just give you a flat. You can be going through tires a lot faster having the rock and the corally kind of terrain. But you have RPM out there.
Yeah, I was going to say your teammate Abdali Lopez. Got some little feedback here from Takati. Hold on a second, guys. Are we hearing that? Sorry about a little technical glitch, but Abdali Lopez from, we are in the middle of nowhere. We have to always remember that, bringing you live streaming here, which is pretty cool. Abdali, though, a championship trophy truck, T1 driver, raced and won a lot of Baja Thousands.
Yep.
He's from Tecate, Mexico, so he's a Mexican national who, and, you know, as you guys, for the people who don't know and haven't been, for us, Baja is like just an extension of California. We go race all the time.
It truly is.
But you haven't, I mean, you know, having Mexican nationals race is super cool, and Abdali is certainly one of the best. A young guy, super talented.
He really took Abdali underneath his wing and gave him a chance at driving. They have teamed up numerous times and took in the championship.
Right, look at that. Rob MacCachren, a helicopter shot. I mean, you can just see the difference in speed from what we saw yesterday. Obviously, these guys are qualifying. You know, the interesting thing here is you've got clean air, but the cool part, it's different too, is we're starting every 2 minutes.
Yep.
And when they do start the race, and they're going to be side by side.
Two by two.
2 by 2. So, I mean, clean air with these big tires, these 40-inch BFGs and Toyos. You know, even Yokohama's out here today with some of their new tires, which is super exciting. But clean air is everything for these guys trying to get, because it's not technical where they're going through the rock section so much where you kind of pass right there. They've got to find. But I understand these guys have pre-run all week, and there's lots of lines, which normally doesn't happen very often here in the deserts of America anymore. But there's clean lines here, which are going to make for some great racing later on.
So we have Justin Matney about to take off the line. He is in, I believe, he just came out with the new G6 by Geyser. They just built a new truck for him. He's in the 4-wheel drive at this race, though. He just finished with the 2-wheel drive. So it's going to be interesting to see that the 4-wheel drive trucks, once again, they're going to come out on top, I think. And
Okay, great. All right. Sorry about that, guys. We have people looking at us like we don't know what we're doing. I had a little technical problem again. We are in the middle of technically nowhere, California, in Hammertown here, and it's awfully hard to bring you world-class broadcasting here, but we are, and narrowcasting, and we're very excited about all this. And so we've got the trucks coming off the line, and we're getting ourselves corrected. And it's early morning. It feels like I should be doing the Today Show out here. You know, coffee, some people, give you guys some signs out there. Tell us where you're from, all that good stuff. But Hammertown's coming alive this morning. Guys, having cups of coffee and getting rid of
it's a chilly one too. Stay warm out there.
Yeah,
but
getting some burritos going here and getting rid of some
get a
hangovers.
coffee. Come watch some T1 desert trucks.
Okay,
doesn't get better than this.
That's right. So here we are out of Las Vegas again. The legendary Herbst team. Troy Herbst racing today. This is super cool. These guys normally run, the monster colors, the black and the green. Everybody's familiar, but their father passed away here recently, Jerry, and they decided to come out this season, at least the first part of the season, with the traditional red, terrible Herbst colors, which I love. But these guys have been racing for a long time, and they're building their own trucks now too. These are built in Huntington Beach, California, and they've gotten this new generation of truck that they are building is just so much better than the last generation. I'm interested to see how Troy does today.
It is really crazy. The last few years, these trucks have gone to a whole nother level. You have all the builders kind of coming to the forefront with building the best machine they possibly can. They're focused on having lighter trucks for more horsepower, and they're focusing on trying to be the most competitive truck out there, and they're all kind of pushing each other to come out with a better machine. So it's really awesome to see teams like the Herbst, building their own trucks and really pushing it as well.
And what's unique about the Herbst situation is for a long time they were only doing kind of in-house trucks. They were building their own trucks, and that was it. And now they've opened it up where they're building 6100 trucks in the Class U race era, and they're doing quite a bit of work for customers, and I think that's pretty cool to see. This new generation truck they built is much better than one they had, and you can see in the results with what they're doing. They're doing considerably better in the results in the standings, which is great to watch.
Yep.
Great to see, because the Herbst name is definitely one that's been in the desert for a long time.
There's Matt Nee in the all-wheel drive. He seems to be doing really good. The all-wheel drives, it's a tough thing because they haven't quite perfected them. They've still had some issues with the all-wheel drive, so that's kind of a battle you choose to either want to fight or not want to fight. So it's a benefit, but then at the same time it's a double-edged sword because it's not perfected.
I mean, right now we are in the midst of a technical revolution. I mean, seriously, in the sport. I mean, it was a long time where these trucks were all two-wheel drive trucks. They were all 6,000 to 7,000 pounds. I mean, seriously, these are heavy trucks with heavy everything, and all of a sudden, as racers are apt to do, it's like, how do we make these things lighter? And it's not just that, but you can also see that now with the all-wheel drive systems that they're using. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. We looked at some yesterday. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, truly amazing when you see the kind of engineering going on in these things, and it's not, some guy sitting there whittling something out of a file and some block of aluminum. It is, world-class engineering going on now with every component. Shocks, for sure. Shocks are still the biggest part of this thing. Tire technology has come a long way in the last couple of years, and we see the tire manufacturers being here. I mean, obviously Toyo is a big factor today. They brought a lot to the table to come here, but BFG is obviously working hard as they do. And we also have Yokohama, which has a brand new, T1 truck tire as well that they're debuting here today with a couple drivers. So it's on right now. So like I said, I think that our fans are going to be enjoying themselves watching, some of the world's greatest technology, all wrapped in carbon fiber. If you can believe, bodies that are called carbon fiber bodies.
Yep.
You destroyed a few of those panels, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah, a lot of carbon fiber. Weight is everything. That it's a horsepower. So one of the biggest things is that this is the biggest purse I think they've had also in truck racing. So this is a big thing for everyone to be coming out here. You have the top names at the first race ever in the T1s at the King of the Hammers. So it's going to be amazing to see kind of how this all pans out. It's the first race of the year for them.
Right, and for all you beer fans out there, and I'm sure there are a lot of them here and all over the world, our next driver up is Brett Serapis. His family's been racing for a long time too, and this is a unbelievable brand new Mason-built all-wheel drive truck. I looked at this truck in a lot of detail yesterday, and it's going to be interesting. This truck is someone to watch it. The Serapis boys, he's got a brother here who's also going to be racing later on apparently. But Brett, they're doing so much better. These new trucks that they're building are excited. Their dad, who actually won the Baja 1000 in a limited car, in a Class 10 car overall in 1986, I believe it was, in a Coors Light car. They sell beer in San Diego, and they obviously sell Coors Light, and they sell Corona.
Yep.
So Brad's going to be doing a really good job, I think, today. They're pretty excited about it today. I think this is kind of one of the underdog teams to watch a little bit today is how well they do. And we can kind of go see the inset there,
yep.
Watching our buddy Andy McMillan come into one of the more technical sections of the course. And we're getting ready to see Brett Serapis. And you can watch how much drive they'll get right off the start line. You watch your front wheels digging in. And from what I understand, Steve Serapis, who's the father, a good friend of mine, said he drove and tested this thing. He said it was 15 to 20% faster everywhere than the trucks he's ridden. So 15 to 20%.
That's unbelievable.
On the regular trucks they had before. So the all-wheel drive is going to do incredible well here in the infield section for sure. I think in the technical sections it's going to do well, even though Brett's not necessarily a short course driver. You know, he's a desert driver. So
his brother's also coming off a win.
Yes.
He's been winning and doing a great job. He's been racing for the Herbst in one of their trucks, and it's kind of cool to see the Serapis family really they're all out there racing and still going really hard at it.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting on the timing of this event is the fact that they just had a race last weekend in Parker, Arizona. One of the Serapis boys won that, so they're coming fresh off of that win. That was a different truck than this one. And like I said, you know, some of the teams have multiple trucks now besides the pre-run trucks they have. And it's again, this is a not cheap way to go racing, that's for sure. This is, like I said, these trucks and the technology and the cost, you know, world-class money, world-class trucks. Some of these trucks now, what I hear, you know, literally you need to almost, with all the spares package that these truck builders are building, some of these trucks, the all-wheel drive trucks are inching near $1 million a piece. And that doesn't get them here with their teams and their tractor trailers and, you know, the pre-run that needs to be done. So it's not for the faint of heart or the faint of wallet for sure. But if you love racing and motorsports, these things are amazing, and the sport is amazing, and Hammertown's amazing. And I'm just saying hi to everybody out there this morning. You guys okay? Got coffee? You guys are doing well. Got a couple waves. Gonna wake you guys up. That's okay.
So next we have Cameron Steele coming off the line. He is he going to pull off his third win in a row? He is on fire right now. He really is. And he's also an off-road Hall of Famer, as well as yourself.
I am, and he is, yeah. He just got inducted in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame, which is a really high honor. But Cameron Steele lives in my hometown, and he and I are pretty close. And, you know, the guy, he was so close for so long. And then he just got his program back together. This is a new truck to him. This is actually the truck that won the Mint 400 last year. And
looks like he's having some issues out there.
It does look like he's having some issues.
Taking it a little easy, and it sounds like it's not running so clean.
Yeah, there's the machine. Yeah, so we'll have to see what now. He's looking like he may be getting it back up now. But he, you know, he just won the Score Baja 1000, which is obviously the sport's biggest race and the longest race. You know, now over 50 years old. And you know, he really is an ambassador to this environment, this whole sport. And you know, it's interesting. His father passed away last year unexpectedly, and since that time, it's almost like his father's, you know, Big Daddy's riding with him over his shoulder and making, you know, him be a better driver, just giving that little extra. And you know, his win last year at the Baja 1000 was very popular for everybody. Want to see Cameron do well.
It's pretty incredible what Cameron does. He not only is an incredible racer, but he also gives back to the community, and he's such an ambassador for the sport. And it's really awesome to see someone like that have such passion and drive, and as well compete in it.
Right. What's interesting, we have the McMillans coming here with Andy McMillan coming back in through the finish line. So that was 20 miles done in, we haven't gotten a time yet, but you know, Andy McMillan wrapping up his qualifying session in about 17 minutes. So that's about kind of what we figured it would be.
Yep.
And then off the line is another McMillan. This is Dan McMillan.
Dan is quite the character. He always just brightens the room whenever he walks in it, and he's running Pistol on his truck. So, you know, rest in peace, Pistol Pete. He just passed away, and he's a legendary off-road racer as well, and he's always been around and had quite the amazing impact on the sport as well.
He did. I mean, Pete Zorn was like a guy who we'd known for race for a long time. You know, he was kind of the everyman's T1 racer, and he did it on a budget. I wrote a story for Racer.com that actually talks about Pete. I said in a world of Snap-on tools, that guy was a Harbor Freight, you know, and that's what he was, and that's okay. And that's what made him so popular. Okay, so we've just found out that Andy McMillan had a time about 16:04, so a little faster than we thought it would be. So these guys are right on it. It's going to be interesting how close qualifying is going to be. Dan McMillan's one of those guys who kind of more of a slow burn driver. He's not necessarily fast in qualifying. And somehow the joke is, but it's true if you look at his record, he's always fourth.
Yep.
Dan McMillan's always fourth. So we're hoping Dan's going to do better than that in qualifying, but he hopefully does better than that in race too. But
his family gives him a run for his money, and right behind him is Luke McMillan.
And Luke is the opposite. Luke has gotten faster in the McMillan team. This is the Mark McMillan team. Andy's a separate deal. But the Mark McMillan team that we see here on the 83 truck, these are both racer-built trucks to start with. There's some modifications done to them, but those guys have stepped up their game in the last year more than I've seen any other team. And the McMillans have won so many races. They've competed in over 325 off-road races since they started. They know how to win. They've won the Baja Championships. They've done everything. And I know I wrote a book about that. It's literally like 8 pounds of information. Yep. But it's great to see the Big Blue M back here. And I know Patriarch Mark McMillan, who just got off a hip surgery, he's running around here. He's having fun. He always has fun. This
always
is fun
a
for
blast
them.
to see Mark.
But these guys, yep, and the McMillans, for those of you who don't know, they are such a big influence in the San Diego area. They built so much real estate down there. Their grandfather Corky started this, and they thought they'd go to Baja and race once. Yep. They had a little Class 9 VW powered buggy, and it's evolved to, this, and they're really done a lot of work to kind of get themselves back. And like I said, Luke is one of the fastest guys in the desert now, and he's already off the line looking like he's fast, getting it sideways right there, and really letting that two-wheel drive truck work. And it's going to be interesting. I think Luke is going to be a favorite today for sure.
Luke's been very fast lately. He's been qualifying in top spots down in Baja and really bringing the speed this year, as well as Dan's been working hard at short course. He had to qualify at Las Vegas Speedway for the 1000, and I know that he put in a lot of time down at Lake Elsinore on the short course track, so he might actually impress us today. And so I'm anxious to see what his time will be coming through against his brothers and cousins.
Right. Rob MacCachren just came in with a 16:20, so he's also in the 16. So now we're getting into what we know. It's a 15-second gap from what I understand. So it's going to be tight. I think qualifying is going to be tighter than we think. I think the race is going to be much tighter than we think too. But these interesting part is that they don't know really kind of what to expect. I mean, this morning, the guys I'm seeing I talked to this morning, were they've said, hey, this is an environment we're not used to. We know when we go to Las Vegas, or we go to the Mint 400, or we go to Vegas to Reno or Baja, we know where the pits are. We know where the best taco stands are. We know where everything is. Here, they come into Hammertown. They don't even understand how big this is and where to even get, where all the facilities are. Not that there's many, but it's a pretty amazing thing for them. I
have a feeling that the T1 desert trucks are going to be something where a lot of people come out of the woodworks. It's kind of the same thing for the UTV racing on the Sunday race. You have people that don't really hop into a vehicle all year, and then they come out just for King of the Hammers. And I have a feeling that this is going to start being kind of one of those one-off races that's going to turn into a big deal, because it's not just so like pre-running. You don't have a lot of pre-running time. You don't have Baja. You don't have all these other circumstances coming into play, and it's going to be the one race a year that people kind of focus on.
What's cool about the way, and we'll talk about this later on, is how this all evolved to where these guys were here. So what's interesting is there's a backstory to the business side of how we got, some of the world's best, desert drivers here. And what's really neat, I think, is just focusing on one class. When you go to a Baja race, or you go to a Mint 400, one thing like that, you've got all these classes. You've got 275, or 300 race teams all competing, and it's great because everybody can come out whatever vehicle they have. But here we concentrate more like it's almost like a NASCAR race. We've got
just got word that Abdali Lopez with the fastest time. He's actually in the 15s now.
Okay, so Abdali laying it down. I don't know how much practice he had. He's your teammate, but not surprising. That kid is really fast.
Abdali's always fast, and sometimes he's too fast. So he's either a win or something happens. So Abdali is definitely one to keep your eye on. If he has a clean race, he will take this.
I mean, there's something to be fearless, right? And he is literally like a fearless guy. And he's young, and I don't know if he's necessarily had the big one yet. We all always talk about having the big one. Well, I don't know if Abdali's had the big one yet.
So he comes from racing quads. He's a generational racer himself, and we always joke on our team RPM that his co-drivers. He's knocked out co-drivers before and just kind of been going and just keeps it pinned. And so he's a very talented extreme
he's knocked
racer.
Out co-driver, he's like knocked them out, like they're out.
Totally knocked out his co-driver before. So
I don't know if that's something I want to be proud of. Like, yeah, I just knocked you out. Don't worry. I don't need to look at. You don't need to look at the GPS or what you're supposed to be doing. Hey, wait, I got a flat. No, wait a minute. You knocked you out. So, anyway, that's a great story. I didn't know that.
He's an unbelievable racer. Abdali has tons of talent, and I just seen a video of Jesse James there.
Yeah, I have too, and it's going to be interesting. Now we got this truck here. This is going to be interesting. This is Bryce Menzies. He won the Mint 400 last year. Bryce is one of the most well-known racer certainly in the sport, certainly one of the best funded, big support from Red Bull. Made the switch this year. This is the first time to run Toyo tires.
And also the all-wheel drive truck is it got released last year, and he's done pretty well. He had some hiccups at some of the races last year towards the end of the races, which he was winning all the way up until then. So hopefully this will be a good debut and take home a win in that truck as well.
This was intended from the start to be all-wheel drive, super lightweight, maybe too lightweight, we don't know. But Bryce is basically he's a Crandon world champion. He won the World Cup last year, the Red Bull World Cup. And, he's definitely great in short course racing. He runs a Pro 4 and a Pro 2. The guy's got so much talent, so much experience. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he does, especially on the new Toyos. There was a big switch for him. But now, you've got 2 Toyo Red Bull trucks in the form of Andy McMillan and Bryce Menzies. And I'm going to be interested to see. And now, speaking of Toyo tires and Monster, this is the perfect segue to the guys who brought you this race here in the form of BJ Baldwin. And, if you're a social media guy, if you're interested in what goes on in some of this stuff and some of the Hoonigan videos,
yeah, my fellow Hoonigan, BJ Baldwin.
Guys, then you got BJ Baldwin. BJ has been around this long time, but this guy really kind of feels like he needs a little breakout performance. He's kind of had some challenges lately in terms of performance, Baja and racing, and I think he's a great guy. I love hanging out with BJ, but he needs to kind of get going here.
I think he definitely needs some results. I think people are kind of, more play over work right now is what's kind of getting a stigma to him. But if he can get a result, then maybe the Baja 1000 champion can kind of redeem himself a little more.
Yeah, it certainly is. There's no doubt about his talent. And, what he's now going, he's working on all-wheel drive truck too, I understand. Again, everybody's kind of looking around, stepping up their game. I think you're right. I think there's a stigma to BJ, which he knows it's there, and he's working on. I think this could be a great event for him, something that's just kind of completely out of the box, where he's going to come out, and he wants to do well for Monster. He wants to do well for Toyo. There's the people who backed him. Toyota, backs him as well. But he's a social media phenomenon. But he's going to have to back it up, and I think I think he would stand up here and admit it too. And I'm rooting for him to do well, because he's definitely done a great job for the sport and what we're doing. Absolutely.
He definitely is. I honestly have never met more of a precise driver as him. You put him in a parking lot and tell him to hit a spot, he will do it at 100 miles an hour going to 0 and hit it right on the money. I
don't know if you watched the Monster Energy Toyo video that they did at Christmas time with Kyle Ledoux.
I did.
But now his teammate, that's Short Course Pro 4. There was some precision driving going on in that thing too. So anyway, next up we got our next qualifier in the Steele truck. We'll have to explain what Steele it is here in a minute, but this is a Jimco truck by Beverly Wilson from Texas. Billy Wilson, number 2 from Texas. And for those of you who don't know, and the guys who are enthusiasts, Steele it is this incredible new product that is essentially stainless steel in a can. And if instead of for years we powder coated everything, and now for our chassis, and then we went to raw chassis, which required WD-40 and a plenty of the Scotch
keeping them from rusting.
I'm gonna see your hands. Have you done the Scotch Brite? No, you haven't. But anyway, so
not much time there.
Now what these guys are doing is it comes in a can. It's called Steele. It's great stuff. We use it on our race team, and it basically just comes out as stainless steel, and you can weld on top of it. You can find
no more grinding.
No more grinding. It's a really cool product. They just came out with the product in black. And this is a Jimco truck, and Jimco's been around a long time. Just got taken over, purchased by my friend Robby Pierce, who owns Mastercraft.
Robby.
Robby Pierce is supposed to be coming up later and saying hi. We hope he can make it, and I'm just excited watching that. Watching Bryce Menzies here again too. You can just see him drifting those trucks, man. Nothing like cool and watching one of these trucks drift sideways at 100 miles an hour, and have the suspension, the shocks working just really good. It's pretty exciting. So.
It is very exciting, and it's really cool, like seeing a Jimco truck out there. Robby Pierce, I know he's trying to make new gains there at Jimco, and they have some trucks in the builds as we speak. I just visited the facility, and it's been an incredible transformation to see what he's done with it ever since he's taken over ownership. Yeah,
we just got word that our buddy Luke McMillan's going across the lake bit here at about 120, not surprising. Again, top speed in these trucks, depending how they're geared, you're talking about 135 miles an hour. That's not a BS number.
No.
And what's weird is, I don't know if you've gone that, I've gone that fast on a Class 1 car. About 132 is as fast as I've gone, and what happens arrow-wise at that speed versus even 120, 110, totally different feeling. Next up is another Jimco truck. Actually, our buddy Justin Lofton has some NASCAR experience. He's won some races as well. Also, like I said, in a Jimco truck, and he's sponsored by Fox Shocks. One of the shocks are a lot of stuff. So the battle rages on with that too here between King Shocks and Fox Shocks. They're the ones who kind of step up and build these massive pieces for these trucks. Have you ever seen wish I had one here. They're 3.5 feet tall, and they're this big, and they've got amazing cooling and reservoir systems and all that stuff now. And then now we hear word that the next stage of evolution and shock absorbers for these things are going to be electronic shocks. They're controlling some of the valving inside.
Yep.
So which I don't think is very far off. And we've seen the new Raptor have shocks that are electronic
and
controlled.
The Polaris Razors, they have it as well. It's pretty phenomenal where the technology has come for all these vehicles. It's interesting seeing Bryce Menzies just hauling through the desert. The 4-wheel drive trucks aren't usually as fast as the 2-wheel drive trucks, and that's something that they've been trying to figure out the balancing act of. So it'll be interesting to see how the 4-wheel drive trucks do here today comparison to the 2-wheel drive.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the technologies of why that is, but right now we've got Justin Lofton out there, 2-wheel drive Jimco. So it's
The next off the line is Josh Daniels. He's also a driver on our team, RPM. He's been sharing driving duties this last year with Justin Matney, and so he's a fast one. He has a very fast truck as well, and he put a new engine in it recently, and I know he's been putting in time.
I mean, the Josh Daniels story this morning is really interesting because he has the brand new Yokohama T1 tires on there, and this guy, I mean, he plays with power. So he's, a lot of these trucks are right around 900. He's up above 12 or 1300, I understand. Now with that, it's always great. For those who don't understand necessarily the technology of the sport, it's great to have horsepower, but you got to get it to the ground and you got to make it live. And the problem is you can throw as much power at these things as you want. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be faster, and certainly doesn't mean it's going to live as long because you have so much shock going through the drivetrain system.
Tire spin and all these things coming into play.
Right, and and then the other thing that's going on with these trucks now, we've got the battle between an automatic transmission like a traditional turbo 400 and then these high exotic 4, 5, 6-speed X-Track gearboxes and the shock loads that have to go through that. I mean, it's great shifting gears. You don't have that efficiency loss that you have with the automatics, but it's going to be interesting to see how that works out too. So
yeah, definitely. As a part owner of Danzio, I'm sure he has the fastest engine package out there.
He does. He definitely has the fastest engine package. So all right. Watching Bryce Menzies out there on the course right now, looking pretty smooth. And here comes, again, the Danzio truck. Yeah, it sounds like it has horsepower. That's the way to wake up this morning, right, Hammertown? We got some horsepower out on the racetrack. That's what we need. Wake us all up for a great day of racing. Weather's going to be beautiful today. It's not as cold. Don't see so much frost sitting around. And it's going to be a warm, wonderful day here in the California desert. It feels like starting to feel like California now instead of the middle of Wisconsin, which it felt like yesterday. So love it. Yeah. Oh, we actually have some racing going here in qualifying. Who would have thought with the gap that these guys are getting, we only have a 20-mile loop, and it looks to me as if Mr. Menzies is catching the gentleman in front of him. .1645. So we got a pass actually in qualifying. Bright boy, you can see the horsepower, that number 7 Red Bull truck laying it down right there. The Toyo tires, which again are new to Bryce Menzies, hooking up here. And you can see there the multiple lines. This is what's making this deal, because all the rain this week has made the dirt damp, and now you've got multiple lines, which means there's no dust, which means they're actually kind of racing instead of racing through dust. And a lot of times, you know this for a fact, is that a lot of times you're just trying to get through the dust and trying to survive. And I'm talking miles and miles and miles where you know you're faster than the guy ahead of you, you just can't get by.
Yep, and visual is everything. So the fact that they're not going to be battling the elements so much and having dusty terrain, which I'm sure they're going to still have dust, but it's not going to be as severe as down in like Mexico per se. So it's going to be quite an interesting thing to see these drivers really push each other, being so close.
Right, next up we have number 19 truck of another, Mr. Ed Herbst is driving today apparently, which is great. Ed is the eldest of the Herbst brothers. There's Troy, Tim, and Ed, and he's in the famed number 19 Herbst truck. Again, love seeing these guys in their red, Terrible Herbst colors. Obviously, if you guys are from Las Vegas or Nevada area, are familiar with the Terrible Herbst gas stations, and that's where they have also, they're in the gaming business. They've been around forever and a long time, like I said, and their father Jerry passed away, who was also in the Hall of Fame, passed away last year, and they're running the traditional red colors. Just, I think it's super cool to see it again. I mean,
as well as Tavo, he's going to be running the traditional Tavo Vildosola racing colors, and I love Tavo. He is such a amazing driver himself, and as a person, I worked with him recently on Hoonigans. We were stunt driving together, and their family is just, they've been a long time racers, and they're going to be bringing the winning package today. So they want something to prove too. They've been out of the realm of things a little bit. They've been sharing driving duties with Andy McMillan, and now they're on their own. So it's going to be great to see Tavo back out there at full force.
Yeah, well, they're also family from Mexicali, Baja. They own a big trucking company.
Mexilog.
I raced against the father a little bit, senior, who also races in the T1 trucks in the Legends class. There's kind of a split deal that they do now, which allows guys like me that are over a little bit over 50 who still want to go race. They can do that competitively. Look, it's tough. I mean, there's no doubt that it's not a young man sport. I mean, look at a Rob MacCachren who's right in his early 50s. I mean, not necessarily, but at the end of the day, that's what Rob MacCachren does for a living, as opposed to other guys like Vildosa's father, who doesn't necessarily get to work out every day. He's busy trying to make money for his company to go racing. But
it's interesting with Tavo's new truck. He put on a whole new front end. He didn't like the rake in it before. He was struggling with having it turn correctly, so they basically replaced the whole front end of this vehicle, and it's going to be great to see it actually out here running for the first time with the new geometry of it. Yeah,
no question about it. And their shop that they have set up, which I believe is in California, they have a beautiful setup, and the pre-runners that they have, their pre-run trucks are just masterpieces of engineering and carbon fiber, and they're just beautiful. And if you ever had a chance to go out and see some of the race trucks are great, and then the pre-runners, which are basically race trucks with air conditioning and leather interiors, it's just over the top. And I mean, you can't imagine having 900 horsepower, 800 horsepower, and all that traction. And
Tavo definitely has one of the nicest pre-runners out there. I saw in Putias and them pre-running, and I saw a video where he came down onto rocks and kind of crunched up the fiberglass a little bit. And I think they're a little bummed on that, but it's pretty fun to see them get kind of in the rocks a little bit more.
Yeah, right now we still have Abdali, your teammate, still at the top of the leaderboard, which is great. Again, this is qualifying for later today. They don't have much time between the time they stop racing and the time they go for the actual race itself. So this is a different type of format, and now we're getting to some more talented guys here. Certainly the number 33 young Cole Potts, who's kind of been taken under the wing by Robby Gordon, who's going to start qualifying here too. And Cole was just in Dakar with Robby.
He was, and I don't think they had a very good run, but they did finish.
Right, and Robby, again, he's been around a long time too. Probably the world's most famous off-road racer, I would say, without question, and certainly the guy who's advocated this sport for so long. I saw him here yesterday, driving the Jeep. I thought that was super cool. And
also racing the side-by-sides on Sunday as well.
And his son Max is here racing too, so Robby's here. But yeah, Cole is kind of taking Cole under his wing, and I think we're super excited to see how that young man does. And of course, we're always excited to see how Robby does. I mean, his driving style is something that's just a beautiful thing to watch. If you watch the guys and they're fast, and then there's Robby fast, and maybe it's just the engine that sounds so fast, but it's going to be interesting. So we got the Speed Energy truck right now, another Toyo Tire sponsored machine, and he's off the line. We'll see how he does. And like I said, I think he's learning a lot from Robby for sure.
He really is. He's been in the Stadium Super Trucks as well, and those trucks aren't easy to drive. So learning how to be able to finesse one of them is definitely a key to being able to drive one of these at its top notch. So another thing, it's quite interesting seeing Robby's out there in an older truck. So
yeah, and I talked to him about that, and he said, well, hey, I built a truck in 1996 that our friend Mark Post still raced, and he said, it doesn't necessarily mean that old doesn't mean necessarily bad, but I think Robby's also starting to understand. I think he's sniffing around, looking to see what works before he dives into either an all-wheel drive truck, a light truck. I mean, he's wicked fast in what he has, but he also, I think, Robby feels like he, maybe a little bit like BJ, needs a sense of kind of getting back at the top. I mean, there's no doubt he's always competitive, and we're going to see what's interesting now is we see a Bryce.
New fast time.
It looked like Bryce Menzies. 15:05 on the Toyo tires. Bryce Menzies got to be congratulated. We knew he looked fast on the screen. You can kind of tell.
25 seconds faster than Abdali Lopez. That's very impressive. Everyone else is in the 16ths.
So now you got now you extrapolate that time times the mileage. You got 20-mile loop, and he's that much faster now. We can extrapolate that over the 200-mile race we're going to have today, and it's going to be interesting to watch. We knew it was going to be fast. Can it last? We don't know. Clear the Toyo tires are working well for him, and I think that he was not concerned about it because he wouldn't have made the switch if he didn't think he could be competitive. Obviously, it's working, and now we're getting ready to see what kind of time Mr. Robby Gordon is going to lay down.
I have a feeling he's going to throw a wrench in this. So Robby always has fast times out there. He has a great truck. He hasn't had the best of luck this year. And as you can tell, you can just sound the difference in his engine and power as well.
I mean, he's got one of those NASCAR-style short, pushrod 2 V8, high-revving V8, an 8.01 exhaust. Nothing sounds like. I don't know if it makes more power, but it makes it more Robby, if that makes any sense, right? It
Definitely.
just he wants to sound better, bigger, badder than everybody, and you know what he does? And he's got fans all around the world that know him just for that.
Yep, you either love Robby or you hate Robby. That's the greatest thing about him is he's just Robby.
He's one of those polarizing figures, but I've known Robby. I was one of his first sponsors back in 1989 when I started. I worked for Bosch. He was and his dad were the first guys I sponsored, and I've seen Robby, kind of mature and grow up. He's always been that guy, but lately, since his father's passing, Bob Gordon was a big mentor to me and a big friend, but since his passing, Robby has kind of really come into his own as a father and as a mentor to guys like Cole Potts and the C and Super Truck Series. It's not the same Robby anymore.
No, it's not. It's been really cool to see him take kind of Max and let him kind of build his own reputation as,
right.
Max has been out there racing everything and anything and putting him in trucks already at, 9 years old is pretty incredible. We have the Ampudias on the line. They have a brand new sponsor, For Loco. So it's pretty cool to see them and have the Pappas Beer, all the chain restaurants down in Baja, and now seeing them up here racing.
Yeah, and if you guys have ever, and now we finally got the screens up, now we can kind of see some of the times, but that's great. Thank you to our tech group, because again, we are in the middle of nowhere, and we're in the middle of the Hammertown facility that's come up and put down in a couple weeks, and have a big screen like this, and now have, live, we can watch what's going on. It's fantastic. So great things, great things to see. And yeah, the Pappas Beer brand down in Mexico, if you guys have ever been down to Ensenada, Tijuana, Cabo San Lucas. So we are, that's a great place to kind of go and hang out and have some cerveza.
So just heard Cole Potts had a little mishap. He's off course right now, having a little mishap. I don't know what's going on exactly, but we'll let you know when we find out more.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see now how that works. Is if he's not going to qualify, he'll be at the back. But if he doesn't go out, he has some time to repair essentially whatever could be broken. We don't know what it is. But like I said, this whole format is so much different. Normally, qualifying takes place a couple days before the race. In the case of the Baja 1000 race, it's taking place at SEMA. Never made any sense to me about why they were qualifying for Mexico and SEMA. Okay, whatever. Apparently those days are over.
Completely different track too. Nothing
it's
that's
a short
even
course. Nothing.
Close to the
Yeah,
same.
and the truck setups are completely different. I understand that those days may be behind this group of drivers, and I think that's a good thing. But we'll just see it here. We'll see how BJ Baldwin looked like he's coming in.
That's a very interesting thing you actually brought up. It's very unlikely that they qualify on the same day as they race. So the teams are going to be working very hard to get these trucks already prepped, the minimal that they're out here. But this is kind of a shakedown. 20 miles is nothing for these trucks, but they're going hard for 20 miles.
But they don't have much time to work on anything. What's interesting is this kind of takes you back to the old days of what this used to be. In the old days, this is way before my time, but in the old days, they used to literally go through tech, and they'd impound the cars So the cars couldn't get worked on at all overnight. However you went through tech is how they started the race.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
how so it was a little bit different. This is a little bit throwback to that. We see Robby, of course, in his traditional hauling butt across the desert thing. And we do have next up is a kind of another internationally famous figure for a lot of different reasons, but Jesse James has kind of come back to off-road racing. I was fortunate enough to work with Jesse back in the day when he was on Monster Garage, and we're the guys who kind of worked on and kind of produced a couple of shows for him, and we built a trophy truck, a T1 truck, back then, whatever, in a week. We had a week to build the truck. It wasn't a very good truck, but we ended up having the best guy, about 12 of the best guys come in and actually complete the truck, and then we went down to Baja and raced it. And that was an old chassis. He's now stepped up to, he had a Porter truck for a while, and now he's got a Geyser truck.
Geyser truck, yeah.
And this is the first time Jesse's been back in, I think, 4 or 5 years.
It's been a long while, and I know he now has his gun company, and I really like that he's sticking with his old style. He has the flames on the truck, and he kind of is sticking with what his look is. And this is Jesse James. He's just a all-around builder and welder that is just phenomenal at what he does. He really has a craft for what he does behind welding. And
I mean, he when he first started coming down to Baja, he came through the kind of the wide open system when I was there, and it was super interesting to find Jesse being just so humbled by the whole racing thing. He didn't come in like you think he would. He came in, he wanted to learn, and he wanted to really kind of be better than he thought he could be. He wasn't afraid to go right into T1 trucks, which I thought was kind of crazy, but he did. And he's been a big addition to the sport for sure. So now we have kind of a different twist on things. We have Raul Gomez, who's a 4400 driver. I don't know if that's his 4400 car with a body on it. We know that it is not. So we just got word that in fact, it is a.
They really have quite the setup here at King of the Hammers. I feel like there's a Gomez in almost every class. So, and speaking to Dave Cole, he wasn't going to even have any other classes. He's going to have one class at King of the Hammers, and now look at how it's evolved. And I feel like the Gomez's have evolved with him, and now they have a vehicle, and they're racing every day here.
Yeah, no. Right, so we're still looking here, and I said Bryce Menzies laying down the fastest time in the morning at a 15:05, which is unbelievable. It's 30 seconds faster than Abdali Lopez's time. Andy McMillan is third, Luke McMillan fourth, Brett Serapis is fifth, Rob MacCachren sixth, Dan McMillan seventh, Cameron Steele is eighth, VJ's ninth, and Troy Herbst 10th. That's your top 10. I'm not sure these guys are going to be able to crack that right now. It looks like that may be where we stay, but the difference in qualifying times, again, is pretty remarkable considering how close these trucks are. It's going to be interesting what happens this afternoon, but boy, Bryce laid down a fast time. I don't think anybody's going to be close to that.
No, that's pretty phenomenal to be able to have 25 seconds on second place there on Abdali Lopez in the RPM truck.
Right, and he's a minute ahead of Andy McMillan, and that's super interesting. I mean, in a 20-mile loop to be a minute ahead is, that's a lifetime. So
and we have some fast guys too. I'm excited to see what Tavo's time's going to be. He really brings the heat, so he's going to be, I think, coming down with a really fast time as well.
Yeah, boy, who also laid a great down time in the 11th is number 58, the Tracy Groff car. I don't know if Justin Bean Smith is driving that car or not, but it's going to be interesting to see how he does. A great guy from a Canadian racer. We do have Canadians running around Hammertown here, Mexican, Canadians, all kinds of folks. I saw some Japanese group. I saw a French group here yesterday walking around. This is a kind of this melting pot of social, I don't know, just everything you could possibly think of is in Hammertown for sure right now.
I definitely think this is the epicenter for off-road. There's going to be a lot of people coming out here just to enjoy the rocks too. You have a lot of spectators who are you have Nate right there with BFG tires. Always a good time seeing him.
The sport does bring out its list of characters. What can I say? This is not a vanilla kind of lifestyle or a sport, right? This is where characters come to play. And boy, certainly the Hammers. There's places that this is social thing kind of happens. In fact, yesterday in Racer I wrote about that this is like I call it a cultural appropriation. We're taking pieces and bits of the UTV crowd, Jeeps, 4x4s, obviously the unlimited trucks. So we're all good. So for those guys who are just tuning in or whatever, we are here at King of the Hammers in Johnson Valley, California, And we are qualifying T1 Unlimited trucks for today's Toyo Tire Invitational. First time ever here at King of the Hammers we've had these vehicles. And we also are now watching kind of the end of qualifying, where we've got Bryce Menzies at the top of the box.
And Josh Daniels just came off the track. He's in fourth now. I knew he was going to be a fast one and up there, and it's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive. Very impressive, actually, considering that you got the new tire combination. And speaking of that, the final qualifier we have today is a brand new truck that just got finished like yesterday, apparently, is Dale Dondell, who's a guy who actually owns Racer. Racer builds these trucks, and he's looked like he's going to be out and running it as well.
I'm not sure if he checked in. I don't know if he'll be qualifying actually today.
I don't know. I thought I saw him truck. I could be wrong, but you know. Okay, wrapping up qualifying here today this morning. Things are warming up. The trucks are definitely warmed up, and now we're at almost about 9 o'clock, so I think our first race start is going to be at 10, so they've got an hour. I think they qualified faster than they thought they would. I thought there was going to be like a half an hour split, so it was an hour. An hour you can make adjustments. There's time to make adjustments. I don't think it's going to be component changes. But we'll see how. I don't know if they're going to be looking at tire wear to see if they're, if that strategy's right, tire pressures are correct, if they're valving the shocks are correct. Usually that stuff doesn't really get changed too much. No,
definitely. They're going to be, I think, just over checking the vehicles, making sure they're in their tip top and ready to take on this race, because this is kind of a shorter race for them. This is going to be more of a sprint race. They're going to be very much just on their A game the whole entire time, and sometimes you're usually reserved and you have a strategy. You're either going to come out a little bit faster at the end or the beginning and get out front, but it's exciting. I see everyone's kind of waking up here in Hammertown, and they're excited to see these T1 trucks take off the line.
They're all coming to see you, Sarah. They've heard your voice. They're sitting in their motorhomes watching it online. They go, we're going to go visit Sarah Price to go see what she's up to.
I think we all just love to burn some fuel.
Well, what's interesting, speaking of fuel, is so that's an interesting thing too, is so that my understanding is that the two-wheel drive trucks burn about we get about 2 miles per gallon. That's right, 2 miles per gallon.
Yep.
For all you environmentalists out there. Yeah, I know we're burning fossil fuel. That's okay. It's a good expensive fossil fuel that smells really good when you hear. But the all-wheel drive trucks, because they have four wheels actually biting, actually get 3 miles.
They do, because you're not getting so much tire spin, so
right,
you're getting all traction.
But that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 30% more.
Oh yeah.
So if my math is right. Sorry, maybe I'm wrong. But the point is that here we've got a situation. It's more than that. It's 50%. But you're actually getting much more. Fuel.
We have a truck on the side of the track there. I don't know who that is, but it looks like they might be broken. Oh no, that's Tavo out there. That's a bummer. I was excited to see his time, but it looks like he's having some difficulties, and we'll have to check in and see what happened.
Yeah, I'm still remarkably. What's remarkably interesting is just the differences in times here. I thought that some of this qualifying would be a lot closer. I mean.
It is. It's kind of all over the place. I expected them to be a little bit more in the second range from each other, but it looks like we are more in half a minute range of each other.
Yeah.
Kind of jumping from a small group that's pretty close to another group that's close 30 seconds apart.
Yeah, I mean, we knew for sure watching Bryce at his time, he just looked fast, and it's going to be interesting to see now. We still haven't gotten all the times yet. Have you got Robby's time yet?
Haven't got Robby's time yet. We should be getting that any second. And Bryce Menzies' average speed was 71 miles per hour, and that's pretty good considering, average speeds are it's quite interesting. Like in the 1,000, we get about, 50? If you're 50 miles per hour average, that's pretty good.
So what's interesting, you brought up that point, and that's become kind of this thing in the desert world too, is that if you look at the average times 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they were about 50, 55 miles an hour. Now the terrain's gotten rougher, the tires have gotten bigger, which would make the terrains rougher. So now when you're talking about something like a Baja race, yeah, your average speed's around 50, 55 miles an hour. It hasn't changed much despite all the technology. Now, the trucks 20 years ago couldn't maintain that same average per hour now. It wouldn't work. But what's interesting is a 70 mile an hour average speed is amazing for these trucks. And considering the terrain they're on, that's pretty earth-shattering, actually. That is hauling. So
and we're looking right here. You know, you're coming into a very rough section followed by some rocks, and these trucks aren't used to going through rocks. That's going to be something new for them. I know the course is very tight and technical. They're used to wide open, more desert sections, and so this is going to bring a whole new taste for the drivers. They're going to be pushed in a whole new way of driving these trucks.
Yeah, Tavo is running again. I think we may have gotten the wrong information on who's actually running. It looks like if that's a live shot we're seing, it looks like he may be running still.
I believe that's Empudia with the
You're right. Sorry
number
about
10
that.
truck.
You're right.
But yeah, Tavo, you know, I really am anxious to see what happened with him out there, because I know they've been putting in a lot of work, and you know, they only have so much time to get the truck ready again to get back out there for race time.
Right. Right. So what's interesting too is that, just thought about this too, is that, you know, you've got the draw here now. So not all the teams have the same amount of time to do the prep between time our prologue or our qualifying is over for this event and the race is going to start. So we're going to be interesting to see what actually happens with that too. I'm not quite sure. But this whole race has such a different vibe to it. This morning was different. Yesterday it was different talking to these guys, and I think we're all kind of going to the great unknown. I think as a whole, these drivers are happy to be here. They're happy to kind of show what they can do in front of newer crowds. I mean, the crowds here in Hammertown are, you know, they're not just from Mexico, and they're not just from Southern California or Arizona or Nevada. They come from all over the country and all over the world. And I think for a lot of these fans, it's the first time they've ever seen these things. They've seen
exactly. You know, we have a lot of rock crawlers out here, and some of them haven't even seen trophy trucks or T1 desert trucks before, and that's going to be the one thing that it might spark their interest. They might be like, oh, let's go watch some truck racing, you know, and kind of follow it more. Yeah,
you know, and like I said, they've been around for so long, and you know, you'll be able to see them. You know, these drivers' names have come up, you know, now with thanks to social media and thanks to there's coverage of this sport that wasn't available years ago. You had ABC's Wide Over Sports 3 times in 25 years cover like a Baja 1000. That's all you ever saw it. And now, you know, these guys are coming more household names, and you know, people like Bryce Menzies and these guys are doing social media things that are taking it outside, you know, the sport. BJ Baldwin's another great example. I mean, who would have thought that? So we know, and we're going to see, you know, I think we're going to see much more of that here in the future. And now, you know, even the guy who's coming in, Robby Gordon, speaks of his social media presence and what the SST system or the series he has does. And, you know, it's part of the package now. I think it's part of what sponsors are asking for.
It really is. You have to be the total package. You can't, it's not only about results anymore. It's about having a presence and being able to get the exposure for the companies that are on the side of your vehicle. So, you know, like this year, I'm a 4-wheel parts new official driver, and that's what's going to be on the side of my trophy truck spec this year, and it's going to be very exciting to have them on board. But you know, it's not just about doing well. You have to be able to do well, but you also have to represent, and that's something that social media gives you such a tool to be able to do for them.
But even, you know, to take a minute to talk about 4-wheel parts, well, you know, they've got a new director of marketing now who we've all known for a long time, you know, Joey D, and he immediately went to make it a 4WP you know, new brand, which is not, you know, for those of you who don't know, 4-wheel parts is the largest supplier of 4-wheel parts to Jeeps and rocks all over the country. I mean, they have a huge presence and a huge place in the marketplace. But, you know, they admittedly were saying, yeah, you know, kind of our brand's a little bit old school, and now, you know, bringing in Joey D to come in and kind of freshen things up, and you're a walking, talking example of that. So we'll see. And, you know, and a guy who has actually a relationship with that is Robby Gordon. He's been involved with them for a long time, and he's finishing up now. It's going to see how his qualifying run is. Doesn't quite look as quick as Bryce Menzies, but we'll take a look.
Let's see what his time is.
Yeah, see, he's only a 17:28. So Robby's
wow,
way
he's
off
down
the
there
pace.
on the list. That's 14th right
so
now.
we don't know if Robby had a little problem. Again, it's 20 miles versus a 200-mile race.
Oh, yep, he has an issue. He has a flat tire.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, considering what this was, I mean, you know, these guys have talked a little bit about, there's some conditions on this course that they're not used to. One of the biggest things is there's some areas apparently on the far side of the course where there's a lot of shale, and shale is that chippy rock that actually is squared off an edge and really sharp. That we don't see hardly any place. So I think we're going to have some issues all day with tire preservation. I think, again, talk about the pressures and trying to get the tire pressure just right so you have enough to bite, but not enough to where you're going to start popping beads. Obviously, with the beadlock wheels they have, that doesn't really happen often, but getting flats is. So we have Mr. Ampudia now, Mr. Pappas Beer heading into town in his beautiful truck. These guys also race in the Lucas Oil Short Course Series. I mean, their family is about the tightest knit group of familia that's all good. So.
Oh, Raul Gomez. He's out there showing 0 miles per hour right now, having mechanical issues.
Well, that's disappointing. I think a lot of fans here were looking forward to seeing how a true 4,400 driver would do stacked up against these guys. I heard there were some other guys who hit, like Shannon Cameron, who were kind of talking about the idea of coming here and going racing. It didn't happen. I think they're just concentrating on tomorrow's big race. Because, today is one of the richest days this sport has ever had. The winner is going to take home $100,000, which we've never seen. And then tomorrow, in the Ultra 4 race, the Nitto Tires Ultra 4 race, we're going to see another $100,000 purse to the winner. So these guys are excited. Those kind of numbers, even when you're talking about this type of money in terms of what these trucks are, that gets guys excited.
It does.
And I think, I think the Ultra 4 guys are just really excited about what's going to happen with them tomorrow too. So, and we can see now in the pits, we got a lot of action going on here now and what's going on. You can see right there in the Justin Lofton's truck, they're doing some work.
These crews are going to be nonstop right now, all the way until race time. It's going to be unbelievable what they actually. I'd love to get down there and kind of check out what all they're doing to the vehicles to get them ready in such a short amount of time. We have Jesse James right here. He looks to be in some very soft terrain right now.
That's a good way to put it. He looked a little uncomfortable right there, a little swirly. I just found out that this is great news. We all are this is the first race kind of back for our community. One of them with Pistol Pete, and we understand that what's going to happen today, which is super cool, is that Pete, we have a 10 o'clock start, but we're going to do we're going to start the race at 10. But it's going to be an invisible start, meaning that we're going to save it for Pistol Pete. So the race is going to start at 10:01. And I understand that his brother Chad is going to wave the green flag. Super cool. I mean, look, Pete had this thing between the T1 drivers and the Ultra 4 drivers and who was cooler. And he always thought that the Ultra 4 guys all wanted to be T1 drivers. Well, that may or may not be true, but that's how he rolled. So I think it's completely appropriate that that's what we're doing today,
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance, if you didn't never have a chance to meet Pistol Pete or know anything about him, he was quite the character. Anywhere he goes, he either gave you a smile or he was someone to watch. That mullet was something.
He was the man, the myth, the mullet. That's for sure. Well, what's interesting here now, we're looking up on our screen and kind of seeing what's happening, and there is actually pit work being done in the pits. We can see on the bottom right-hand corner the McMillan crew working hard on their truck, the number 83 truck. Who knows what they may or may not be repairing. It looks like actually they're just, who knows. They're definitely checking something. It's not just a kind of a cursory look at the corners. You look at the corners, make sure that tires are tight and the wheels are tight and the tires will look good, and there's no leaks. It looks like they're working on something right there. And again, this is something a bit new. Normally in a desert race, if there was a slight leak or some slight thing, you wouldn't stop and fix it. You just let it ride until something needed to be repaired. Here, these guys actually are like pit crew.
Yeah.
They're actually working the pit. So
I see Justin Matney. He's usually a top runner, and he qualified 19th. So I'm sure guys they built the truck, they prepped the truck. They're going to be full bore on that truck right now to make sure that it is 100% going into the race. So I'd like to hear what happened there.
I think the one of the bigger surprises this morning, I think clearly is Josh Daniel. I think that him coming in fourth. Again, a brand new tire combination is super, super cool. Oh, look, we have our friends, the law enforcement here. Wave to all our friends. I'm sure they had a long night, one would guess, so it's all good.
So it looks like we have a map out for you guys to kind of show you where vehicles are on the course. We have trucks that are down where it has the pink ring around them. It means that they are not moving. So we have Tavo out there. We have the Gomez. We also have Jesse James, I believe. He is coming around and finishing. He has not finished yet. And who else might be out there? Let's take a look. And that's it. That's everyone out on course. Everyone else is in the pits getting ready for race time. So we have a lot of action going on in the pits right now. And then we're still waiting for Jesse James to come in and finish his qualifying lap.
Yeah, it looks like there's the Corona truck, the Mason truck. They're working the front end of that. Again, I'm kind of a bit surprised that there's that much going on after 20 miles. But again, who knows? Looks like Jesse James is going to end up finishing his qualifying time here, his qualifying lap. Just great to see him back out. He was. You could tell social media wise, he was very excited to be back and doing that. And I think that's what's super interesting. They're actually, we just are out here in Hammertown and seeing the number 100 truck of Dale Dondell actually going through the pits. I don't know if he's going to run or not.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to actually make a qualifying lap. I know he hadn't checked in, and that was a question. But he's always a fast one to watch as well. So Jesse finally made it in. Let's see what his time is.
21:01. It was his time, so he's 19th right now. Again, I think he actually said, which it's very rare to have a racer actually say this, but he said, look, I'm coming back, I'm shaking the cobwebs out, and that's what I'm going to do. So it's pretty interesting that he's doing it that way.
All right, so here are your results. It's Bryce Menzies, Abdali Lopez, Andy McMillan topping out third, Josh Daniels, Luke McMillan, Brett Serapis, Rob MacCachren, Justin Lofton, Dan McMillan, and then your top 10 is Cameron Steele.
All right, we are getting ready now. We've got about an hour before our race, and we are really excited to see what happens. We are at the Toyo Tire Invitational, brought to you by Monster Energy, and this is a very first cool thing. I think we're excited to bring it. We're going to bring up some highlights here shortly for you guys to watch. And we are speaking to the internet world, and we're also speaking to our live fans here at Hammertown. Good morning, Hammertown. Welcome to what we think is going to be a very historic day in off-road racing. It's a first of a kind. We are happy to be here, excited to be here, Sarah.
Very excited to be here. We have a stacked race ahead of us. The desert trucks are really going to be, I think, the show today. It's going to be all about going fast through the desert, hitting whoops at 120, and seeing what these trucks can do out here at Hammertown.
Well, they are the show. There's no question.
Definitely
That's pretty
the show.
much what's racing today. In case you guys are wondering, the trucks we're racing today are the show. Sorry, I had to bring that in.
They're always my show. I know they're always my favorite. So sometimes
Absolutely.
different things for different folks. So
it is. Well, we're just getting warmed up this morning here in Hammertown, and excited about the world as it is, and a beautiful day in California.
it is. I'm glad everyone is starting to come out and really kind of check out what's going on here today.
Well, Sarah, one of the things I can't help but noticing is that just, again, one of the, okay, so there's a gentleman out here wearing shorts. Now, it's still 38, 40 degrees-ish here. Now, compared to the wind and the snow and the rain we've had, again, this is California, but we've had incredibly colorful weather.
I always say that, I live in California. I come to California to be in the warmth. And I feel like Johnson Valley is always its own country within California because it's so much colder here.
It is colder, but it is winter. Let's forget it. It's only February.
I know.
So we have, interesting weather issues, but again, I think it's going to warm up. It's going to be a beautiful day today. We're going to have fans all over this race course. I know there are people coming from Los Angeles or people coming from Arizona, everywhere just for today, because again, I think they all want to see kind of history in the making. They want to see. I think they want to see a guy hold up a check for $100,000, which we've never seen before. And again, yes, that's probably, good enough to buy an engine, but okay, get an engine.
That is pretty wild that you think about it, huh? You get $100,000 and they're so excited to go racing for $100,000, but yet they're running $1 million truck. So.
I mean, I can go to, we can go to Crandon, Wisconsin, where we do our short course race, which is going to be the 50th anniversary this year. I can buy a house.
Oh, wow.
Now, it may not be the best house, but it's going to be a house.
I still haven't made it to Crandon. I'm going to this year. Since it's the 50th anniversary, I might just have to make a visit.
You do. I can guarantee you'll have VIP treatment, of course. But, yeah, that's going to be later on the sleigh race. That's a whole different form of racing. Obviously, that's short course racing, but it is the 50th anniversary of that whole sport. It started 50 years ago, and I think the folks back there, again, it's just one of those organic events like this where – you would never expect, you can never sit down. I mean, I can't imagine the folks at King of the Hammer Productions, Hammer King Productions, Dave Cole sitting down and say, okay, so what we're going to do as a business plan is that we're going to sit down in the middle of Johnson Valley, California, next to the Marine Base here, and we're going to just picture this. Picture, 6,000 motorhomes and, 50,000 people over the week coming to watch UTV racing and T1 racing and Ultra 4 racing. And besides that, guess what? All these sponsors are going to show up too with their rigs. They're going to show up and spend a week out here. And most of those sponsors are going to stay in motorhomes. That's what's going to happen. Now, can you imagine the look on somebody's face if they sat in that